Since after reanalysis, Final Wars Godzilla was much more powerful than I originally thought, I thought it was fitting to put him up against the one he's been placed against for years. The one he aspired to be from minute one, Heisei Godzilla. Though yes, he is my favorite, I will not say objectively false information to try to just have him stomp out Final Wars. I'm not like those people who downplay Final to like City just to bullshit him to be weaker than Legendary, for example. So today, we find out who would win an accurate fight. Let's get into it. So first off, let's talk about the difference in power. Final Wars' own feats do not really get above multi-continental to moon level when he is amped, and planetary with his red spiral ray. However, if you are generous enough to Final Wars, you can get him up to a maximum of about star level. This is without the statement of him having infinite energy, because that just blatantly seems to be false, since his base breath after the infinite amp doesn't even do much more damage to the Gotengo than he did originally. Although, I guess you could say he is holding back, but can he hold back infinitely? That's a little unusual. Either way, a planet to star level Final Wars Godzilla seems the most consistent to me. But what about Heisei? As I've covered in the past, planet and star level stuff just actually happens on screen in the Heisei series, to which Godzilla scales to, if not above, by significant margins. This gives him a significant edge over Final Wars in stats in both power and durability. But if you want to know how much, Batra already has a feat that would calculate into small star level. Godzilla was nearly unharmed by his blast even after continuous fire. This Godzilla, who can then kill Batra with a few blasts, is so strong that it's stated he is invincible to damage from Mothra and Batra. This should be interpreted as almost the reverse of a one-shot, which is consistent with him basically two-shotting them at multiple occasions. So this puts him in a far higher degree of small star level, if not star level already. Then you have the plasma grenade returning fire back at him 10,000 times over. This is already solar system level. Like, not even debatable. He then surpasses Mechagodzilla, whose other weapons could also deal damage, on par with the plasma grenade if not worse. Then, in his base form, he can take attacks from Super Mechagodzilla, whose everything is multiplied by double, meaning he could take 20,000 times his own AP at least solar system level. His red spiral ray then surpasses this output, so even with this low end scaling, he's still solar system level and above Final Wars is star level. But what use is power if you can't hit your opponent? After all, it was stated Final is 3 to 4 times faster than a previous Godzilla. Well, getting into the calculations, Final Wars' maximum for base is about 30 times the speed of light. He then gets blitzed by about 8-fold by Kaiser Ghidorah, and then returns the blitz when he gets amped himself. This gets max power Final Wars to a few thousand times the speed of light. I am being generous here for sake of argument. Space Godzilla's crystals have been calculated anywhere from 34 to 933 times the speed of light at low ends, with the high ends being into the billions, trillions, and even quadrillions of times the speed of light. Heisei can tag and react to them even mid-fire, but they're slower in an atmosphere, I hear you say. Well, that's not true, because Space Godzilla can completely control gravity and deny the laws of physics, so he can make them as fast as they are in outer space. Isn't that fun? But even just in the low end, Heisei is not far behind, and even then, a 3 times speed difference is not that hard to deal with when you have massive area of effect. The city block to far higher sized explosions Heisei creates is enough for Final Wars trying to run away. Also, things like the nuclear pulse can cover vast distances, and we know that the atomic breath can cover hundreds of meters, if not hundreds of kilometers. So while Final Wars has longer range in that respect, it does not really help him. But what about physical strength? What if Final Wars tries to physically overpower Heisei? Problem is, even in terms of their lifting strength, Heisei is above. Final Wars' best feats are throwing Kumonga over the horizon, and Ragdoll and Kaiser Ghidorah. Both feats get to about Class G lifting strength, able to lift 1,000,000 tons plus. Heisei broke open a tectonic plate, which scales to Class P, and scales to Mothra, who can redirect asteroids the size of planets, which is Class Y lifting strength. This means Heisei has every physical advantage except maybe speed if you use conservative Heisei speed scaling. Even then, his atomic breath blitzes the crystals by about 5 to 7 times, meaning he can most likely tag Amped Final Wars anyway. But I did mention things from like later or into the middle of the Heisei series. What about older Heisei? Well, 89 Godzilla is 200-fold weaker than his bigger counterpart. If you lowball him, this would put him below star level into the large planet ranges, but he still has the 10,000 times durability. This puts his durability still above Final's yield to actually destroy. And there's no evidence that Heisei got faster when he got stronger, so he would actually still have the same speed, meaning eventually just tire him out. And Final does seem to have limited stamina, unlike Heisei who doesn't. So, sad to say, but it's not really close at all. In an equal scenario, there are a few things to consider. Final Wars' best stuff includes his ability to get stronger as he fights, his hand-to-hand combat skill, which is considered masterful, his atomic breath is able to clash with the Destroy Thunder gravity beams, which are able to enact anti-gravity properties. He has some level of regeneration negation, able to destroy M cells with his own energy. But other than the standard stuff, we don't really have a lot of information on Final Wars Godzilla's abilities. He's mostly just power and speed. But since Heisei beat him in those categories, doing an equal scenario kinda makes it difficult for him. His main tricks include a far-ranged but varying in power atomic breath, a short-range pulse that he only does when he has the Kaiser amp, and the Spiral Ray variant. However, Heisei kinda has more stuff. He not only has the same techniques, but better versions of them. His atomic breath doesn't shoot as far, but he won't need that against Final Wars. Shooting just a few kilometers is more than enough to cover any distance Final tries to run. His nuclear pulse can encompass like hundreds of meters compared to Final's, which is barely like skin contact. Not to mention it's also an amped attack, and his blue spiral ray is able to decapitate beings that can take the nuclear pulse, let alone the more powerful red spiral ray if you include later versions of Heisei. As for stamina, Heisei has no stamina limit. He has literally unlimited energy. As long as he exists, he will continue to pump energy, which also in turn makes him stronger as well. So not only does he get stronger as he fights, but he will also be better at absorbing energy. If energy hits any part of his body really, he can absorb it, unlike Final, who only seems to absorb energy through his dorsal plates. Really, Final's melee skill doesn't do too much, considering Heisei is such a tank, it can take beatings from enemies more powerful than himself. And on top of that, isn't too bad of a melee fighter himself. He knows how to grapple, he knows how to punch, he knows how to kick. You can see this as well in other versions too, like Super Godzilla. Official concept work also shows him being more competent in hand-to-hand, as well as even the manga version. And since he's equally fast and equally strong, these attacks are just going to land on Final, since Final never dodges. Heisei even knows how to dodge, which Final doesn't, surprisingly. So you could argue that Heisei is actually a smarter fighter in close quarters. There's also the fact he can use energy abilities like energy amped fists and bites. And then there's his own adaptation. Biollante and Space Godzilla are proof enough of Godzilla's adaptation, but he also adapted to things like million-degree currents of electricity, adapted to the conditions inside a volcano, and so learned how to turn that into energy, adapted to Space Godzilla's energy, adapted to fight Mechagodzilla. In terms of intelligence, Heisei is clearly smarter than Final Wars. Both are shown able to exploit weaknesses in combat, but Heisei is the only one who's done that on enemies that are also known for being intelligent. including Space Godzilla, as well as the 23rd century prepped G-Force. His atomic breath is also able to negate regeneration as well. That's definitely better than Final's feats. While Final can destroy cells that don't regen, Heisei can destroy Biolante cells which do regen and can take the durability negation. Even a black hole, which is able to destroy even quantum states, bend space-time, destroy all matter even on the subatomic level. And he's also able to take such attacks like from King Ghidorah, who blatantly blasts him with quarks and gluons. In short, even in equal stats, Heisei is just going to long haul it, beat Final Wars down eventually, and eventually kill him. Especially if he gets stronger mid-fight, amps up with energy, and if he gets serious. And I've already dealt with the notion that he scales above Heisei in the video covering Final Wars. So, sad to say, but Final Wars loses pretty badly. Anyway, that's all for this one. See you guys next time.